Yeah, how's it going, Mr. Woods? My name's Nick Riel. I'm just curious to see what your opinion is on the future of the United States economy. I know you're a brilliant economist.
Well, I'm a historian by training, but I dabble in economics.
Sure.
Well, I think the long-term future is actually fairly bright, but I think the short and medium term is not so bright, just because nobody's learned anything from what happened, and I think they're just continuing on this unsustainable fiscal path, right? I mean, there's no way they're going to be able to pay all the obligations. Like, I mean, this is stuff that everybody basically knows, and those are going to continue to accumulate and hang over the economy, and I think undermine business confidence. And I think also just a general uncertainty about what the American political class will do next is also undermining the business class, business confidence. And then finally, the regulatory morass. I mean, it's like they're just asking for problems. Like they want a European welfare state that yields you double-digit unemployment and anemic to no growth.
Awesome. You know, you're the second person to tell me that long-term the economy looks good. I'm curious to know why you feel that way.
Because eventually it becomes impossible for all these various promises to be kept. Eventually, see, right now the problem is we can't really cut anything. The government seems to grow like this, and people think, well, if government grows incrementally, maybe we can cut it incrementally. But it never seems to work. And if people claim they're going to do that, it always continues to grow. There's never, so you can grow it incrementally, but it doesn't seem possible to cut it incrementally for whatever, and there are a lot of possible reasons for that. But the point is that when a major crisis comes, it will be cut, and not just incrementally, but dramatically. And given that I believe that is the key to future prosperity, when that comes, and when we adjust from that, then I do think there's, I mean, we have we have a lot of ingenuity in our population. We have, at least in theory, it's possible that we could have we have 50 states. That puts pressure on governments to be less predatory. Like, we have some advantages that Europeans don't have. And I think those would come to the fore in the wake of a fiscal collapse. That's why my slogan is bankruptcy, the best thing that will ever happen to America.
Wow. When do you think bankruptcy will happen to our country? Obviously, you don't know the exact day.
Right. Well, I asked Ron Paul this question at CPAC last year, 2011. It was a big event. There was 4 of us on stage, and I got to ask any question I wanted. So I said, all right, it's 2025. How is America different? And he said, I think America is going to look very different in 2025, because he believes that by then there will have been fairly wrenching changes, and then we'll see how we pick up the pieces from that. So Who am I to second guess Ron Paul? If he says 2025, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon.
Wow, okay. Well, what would you say to anybody at home who doesn't realize that our economy is doing fairly horrible and on the brink of a major change? What would you say to them to prepare for this economy? What would be the best scenario for them? Gold, silver, buy a home in the woods?
Certainly you should have some precious metals, but you should also think entrepreneurially. I mean, you can't think the way people used to think in 1953, that I'll go to high school, I'll graduate, I'll get some good job, and that'll be the end of it. You got to think of, what kind of talent have I got that I could monetize someday? What kind of talent do I have where I could support myself with this talent? And that's, I mean, to be honest with you, the guy I know who is the best on this, who you describe what your talents are, what your strengths are, and then he's like a machine. You describe these things, then he spits out, here's what you should do. And he did this for me, actually. I have a big project going on right now that I would never have thought of, and he said, look, Tom, these are your talents. Why aren't you doing X? My gosh, you're right. So I did X, and it's this big, fantastic success. And he does this for everybody. It's my friend Gary North. So I recommend, and I get nothing for this. I get nothing for this. I recommend joingarynorth.com for just a month. Be the best $15 you ever spent. You go into his discussion forums, you say, Dr. North, here are my strengths. And what am I going to do in this economy that's coming up? And he will say, well, in light of your strengths, I recommend this path. And he's pretty darn good. He's much better than I am, so I recommend that.
Well, if anybody at home wants to learn more about you, what do they need to do? Where do they need to go?
TomWoods.com would be the thing to do, and then you can see how I took the talents that I have and I turned them into something that is helping the movement and also feeds my kids, and that's libertyclassroom.com, where I teach U.S. history, except not the kind you got in school, but the kind you should have gotten in school.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Woods, for your time.
All right,
I appreciate
my pleasure.
it. Yeah, you have a good day.